All right, where'd it go? Okay. Gabe's going to be on the end. Welcome, everybody. Hopefully you can see us. I need to double check and make sure we're actually live.
Yep, I think we are.
I think we are too. Welcome to the Beacon Roundtable show every Wednesday, noon Eastern, here with the co-founders of Beacon. You got myself, Chris, Jangle, Andrew, Gabriel. We're here to talk about everything coming down in the DeFi and crypto and investing space and more. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Great. Good, man. Good.
Great. Like, happy Wednesday.
Like this was a boring week, but a few hacks, few exploits, some more bear market pain. So good.
Yeah, what's a hack between friends, right? Okay. Thankfully we have not been really like hit by any of this stuff. I mean, we easily could be, but unfortunately, with proper goodness and stuff like that, we seem to be pretty good. So really excited to get into today's topics. We're going to start off this week with multi-chain. Multi-chain is pretty much at the top of the news for a lot of people in DeFi. A really trusted large cross-chain bridge, very lindy, meaning it's been around for a very long time. It used to be called AnySwap.
I don't know if it's that trusted, right? Like it has been. This isn't the first time AnySwap or multi-chains have been hacked, right? I mean, there was. I'm looking at the Rec.News article.
Yes, please do. Educate us on this.
So there was a AnySwap is the previous name of multi-chain, was hacked for $8 million about 2 years ago. And then in 2022, there was a vulnerability found that led to a draining attack that led to 3 million in losses. And then I'm sure you'll all remember the force majeure of May 2023, where there was concerns about a multi-chain founder being arrested. And am I pronouncing that right? Force majeure. I've read it a thousand times.
That's right.
But yeah, so this time there's another sort of concerning hack. I'm not sure the totals. This is a doozy. 126.3 million, I believe, in stable coins, ETH, wrap Bitcoin, and then some altcoins like Link and CRV, and I think like ICE or something. So yeah,
ICE?
Yeah, like the Danny token.
Oh wow, Popsicle Finance ICE. Okay.
Yeah.
So they bridged a lot of weird assets. Remember?
They did.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Yeah. One thing we've seen them. They also they themselves told people to stop using the exchange, and then I believe they actually drained the remnant of liquidity in order to recover some funds because they couldn't stop the hack from going on. Not sure what they're going to do with those funds, but
yeah, I think that there is some hope. I don't know if these assets have they been brought through Tornado Cash or anything. I think that they're held by the hacker, like in the original wallets, the addresses that were used to attack this. So maybe it was a white hat, but yeah, to my knowledge, they haven't been filtered through Tornado Cash or anything yet.
Correct. Yeah, and that's kind of the weird part, right? Because they were just trying to figure out exactly, what is exactly going on here. Unfortunately, to give the full thing on, this week's July 6th attack, more than $125 million of crypto, with 118 million transferred out of the Phantom bridge on multi-chain alone. That's not good. Also affected the bridges to Phantom, Polkadot's Moonriver, and Doge Chain. So there's a whole bunch of assets that are Yeah, you mentioned ICE right there. So they're abnormally moved to 6 addresses. So no mention on whether or not it's been put through Tornado Cash or any other mixer.
And also not swap for ETH, right? Like,
correct.
Did they swap the USDC or the Tether for DAI or ETH or anything? Because that's
No.
normally the first thing that Black Hat
Correct.
do.
But one thing that Circle and Tether did immediately was freeze the roughly $65 million in assets, because I guess 63.2 of that was in USDC, 2 million in USDT. So
Yeah.
they did that right away. That's fantastic news.
Yeah,
our
but,
favorite
they-
security firm, PeckShield, that's ironic, came up with the exact numbers of what's going on here. So yeah, this is far-reaching with regards to we'll call it GigaChat activity across multiple blockchains.
So it's not just Phantom.
No, we have
assets?
Dogechain, Moonriver.
Oh, well, who the hell's on Dogechain?
Why have you guys been hating on PeckShield again recently? Why is that?
I'd have to remember exactly why PeckShield said something. Oh no, was that Certic or PeckShield? Well, I'm not here for slander.
Both Certic and PeckShield are considered, I believe, some of the cheaper audit firms.
Yes.
And they are often the ones that you see when there's an exploit. You see that they've been audited by those two firms in general.
Yeah, I also feel like a lot of times projects will slap the "we've been audited by X firm" on their website or whatever, but in reality, they've shipped code since that audit, or maybe they haven't fully addressed and resolved all the issues that were brought up in that audit. So, it is worth saying there's a few things to take into account whenever you're deploying into non-Lindy, basically new smart contracts. Is there an audit? Who did the audit? And then actually open the audit and look at the high severity and critical issues, and were they all resolved? Use GPT to help you understand what the hell's happening in the audit if you need to, but that sounds kind of tedious and tiresome. But if you're deploying a meaningful amount of money in there, it's probably worth it. But that being said, I typically am not deploying into any like random sketchy smart contracts. How do you guys feel like in terms of like action steps? Like if you were affected by this, if you had like Phantom USDC or Tether or I don't know, Dogechain, ICE, your Dogechain held Danny bags, like what would you do? Would you eat whatever existing slippage there is, or like pray that this is a white hat and that this all kind of like gets reversed and those assets go back to like their peg?
I would eat the slippage as soon as I could.
Yeah.
Never touch multi-chain again, regardless of it. Even if they get the funds back, this is like the second big controversy they've had in the last month or two since launch. I just don't see it being a real project going forward.
Yeah, and they've had, obviously with the issues with their leadership getting arrested or just disappearing from the grid altogether, unfortunately, it's just one of those things too with Phantom. They've lost 44% over the last week. They went from being a top 12, down to, they're going to fall out of the top 20 easily. But, what a fall from grace for them specifically. And the other reason why I agree with Gabe is that it's specifically that, Chainalysis believes this is potentially an inside job based on what you mentioned, Jangle, about, nothing being done with those tokens. But on the flip side, and there's a little bit of interpretation I've seen in a bunch of different discords about this, amongst some of the other, other Chad-like figures, that, they're draining tokens and putting them into new EOA accounts, or which are externally owned accounts. So could it be that they're trying to limit the damage of the exploit and looking to bring multi-chain back? With that said, the tweet on July 6th saying do not use multi-chain from multi-chain is all I need to know to never go back to multi-chain.
Well, it's not just multi-chain, right? Like the bridge is hacked. It's the assets on these non-native assets on these alt chains that are you don't have to use multi-chain, right? If you're holding
Correct.
USDC on Phantom, you're going to have a bad time. Or if you were holding your curve on Dogechain, what was the other one? Was Dogechain, Phantom, and Moonriver?
Moonriver, yeah.
Who the hell's on Moonriver? What are you doing there?
There's a lot of chat activity on Moonriver.
Really? What's going on?
There's a lot of shit coins on Moonriver.
A lot of shitcoin happening. Okay. Well, hey, I'm here for it. But
I made good money on Moonriver. Long time ago.
Slim your shitcoins on Moonriver. Just know that there's a lot of complexity when you're trying to understand bridge risk, and when the assets that you're holding on some chain are native to Ethereum or another chain, and the bridge is poorly built, it's secured by a multi-sig of anons, or I'm not saying multi-chain is, I'm not exactly sure the mechanics of how this took place, but yeah, I mean, it looks like maybe the router was the router contract was compromised somehow, either through private keys on the multi-sig, or I don't know exactly how. But I don't have personally big picture, right? So I think that we've addressed the actionable steps of the short term, as in if you're holding these depegged assets. If I was given 10,000 Phantom USDC, I'd sell it for whatever I could get at this point and move on. But big picture, avoiding these situations, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Be aware of the bridge risk of your assets, and stay on either mainnet or L2s. And I get that L2s are not perfect, rollups are not perfect, but even optimistic rollups like Arbitrum and Optimism, those teams likely take bridge security a lot more seriously. And having at least a roll-up gives you some assurances. It's not perfect. It's a very nuanced topic if roll-ups are totally secure and inherit all the security benefits of Ethereum. It's a very nuanced and technical topic, but it's your random alt L1s with super shitty bridges, it's simply not the move.
I think with the emergence of Lido ETH and staked ETH, and the fact that we're seeing volume go down and down and down in wrapped ETH, I think we're seeing the slow death of wrapped assets as a whole, and we're slowly transitioning into a native-only type deal where you're actually swapping assets from one chain to assets on another chain, which are each native to those chains, rather than having it wrapped. And ultimately, I think you have to, because all of these wrapped assets, they have to hold those funds in a contract while you're interacting with them on another chain. And they're just sitting there in perpetuity, which means that they're always vulnerable. And we've seen this happen again and again and again, where bridges gets hacked and all the funds just drained from that contract.
How do we feel about layer 0? Things like that where you
Very
have
bullish. I love layer 0.
Right. So, obviously it's a different approach with something like layer 0, or even CCTP from Circle for, direct native stablecoin redemption, through that mechanism. And you have other things like Thorchain, where they're actually renting, they're actually tapping into liquidity pools from multiple providers. Same thing with Rango. Cross-chain swaps, basically. And you know how much I love my cross-chain swaps. So is it time to start stepping away from protocols like multi-chain, like Cbridge, like Synapse, and move towards cross-chain swaps with much deeper liquidity pools? Not saying that Synapse and Seller don't have them, but with regards to what's happening here with multi-chain, is this landscape changing?
Can I ask a clarifying question there, Chris? So are you talking about as users of a bridge? Are you talking about as a farming opportunity, or are you talking about both wrapped up in a nice bow?
Both wrapped up in a nice bow.
Okay.
I like cross-chain swap, personally.
I do too.
I think it's a much better system.
Yeah, so anytime you've got an asset that originates on another chain and you're holding it on its non-native chain, then there has to be some sort of set of bridging contracts. And if there's like some sort of bridging contract, then there's got to be a relay, like on two different chains, right? A source chain and a destination chain. There's got to be some sort of relayer that is relaying information on one chain and then sending it's like a message to the contracts on the other chain, right? Whether that's from source to destination, where you're locking up tokens in the source contract and you're minting new tokens on the destination, or you're going from destination and you're bridging back to Ethereum mainnet, right? Where you burned those representation tokens on the destination chain, then you're unlocking the real assets on the source chain, right? That's typically at a high level how, to my understanding, right? I'm not a dev or savant with bridges, but like my mid curve understanding of like how bridges at a high level work. Now, the implementation of that whole process can vary significantly, right? Like you can have challenge periods with optimistic bridges. You can have single EOA signers as relayers. You can have multi-sig relayers. You can have like a relay system. Like I think you mentioned Synapse. Synapse has this system with like off-chain watchers, notaries, and guards to observe messages. They have an optimistic challenge period, I believe, with Synapse, and they have like executors that like are a separate party that actually send the message on the relevant chain. So to mint or burn or whatever, mint or unlock the assets, right? So every bridge takes a different approach, and I don't want to like say C-Bridge, Synapse, Hop, like all these bridges bad, right? Because it's really the devil's in the details. But I think one thing is for sure, in the future, we want to minimize the amount of bridges that we trust, right? And those bridges need to get Lindy, and they need to have really robust systems that make them secure, right? And it's during 2021, during the bull market, a lot of Alt L1s popped up just because there was such a huge demand for block space, and they did it quick and dirty, and they relied on these third-party bridges to get funds from Ethereum to their Alt L1s, and those bridges made a lot of poor security decisions and didn't build it really robust. So I'm staying away from anything that's not, Arbitrum or, I get that Polygon right now is still a POS sidechain, but I think that they have the resources to maintain the security of their bridges. Optimism, maybe Base when it launches. Perhaps Avalanche is the only Alt L1, but like really you just got to be careful with spreading out to all these like super long tail Alt L1s, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, cross-chain does work a little bit different, where you're actually swapping assets on one chain for assets on another. So there's no like intermediary holding. You're not minting new tokens on another chain. You're just swapping for tokens on that chain, which it just seems like a better idea on a fundamental level.
Yeah, but then like you can't hold ETH on Phantom, Which, I mean, hey, it worked out terribly. Holding ETH on Phantom worked out really poorly here. Or
yeah,
like
maybe
USDC.
you shouldn't.
Yeah,
maybe
no,
you shouldn't.
Yeah, you should not probably. If this has shown us anything, you probably should not.
Maybe the Arbitrum and Optimism route is the better way to go if you want to hold ETH on an alternative chain.
Yeah, they're definitely. Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
I was going to say, I don't like saying definitive statements like just don't hold just don't hold ETH on a chain other than ETH mainnet forehead.
No, not just ETH mainnet, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, and even L2s. I think it all comes back to risk adjusted returns, and I think when you look at like one thing specifically, like stable coins that you're probably not ever really going to earn more than 30% yield on. Being what?
Getting 30% yield on your stablecoins?
No. Right now I'm getting around 20, but I'm just saying you're probably not going to get more than 30. So no. What are you risking to get that 20 or 30%? You're risking a lot. But if the yield, if the rewards that you're getting for having ETH somewhere a little risky, say it's Polygon, which I don't think is that risky. Say it's Avalanche, say you're over on Aurora, there just happens to be a great farm for ETH on Aurora. It's not that you shouldn't do it. It's that the risk-adjusted returns need to make sense. And I think that like farming stable coins on bridges is like one of those specific things that's like, I don't think it's ever worth it. Because I don't think any bridge can be a low risk farming position. I think they're all at least medium risk thing, just because there's inherent risks. And like I'm looking at these C-Bridge yields right now, and C-Bridge has been a great place to go for stable coins. And you can get 25% on USDC on ETH mainnet right now on C-Bridge. But I'm just not sure if it's worth it. I think there might be a better place to get 20%, right?
Yeah, so how I think about that is, okay, how long do I have to keep my money in there to make it all back? Right?
4 years.
4 years, right? 4 years. And is it more or less likely that C-Bridge gets exploited in a significant way in the next 4 years? Like for every 6 months, I'm earning 12.5%. Like nothing happened. I earned 12.5%. Was that still a plus EV decision? Especially when like, hey, like the DAI savings rate is bringing treasury yields on chain, and that's creating like it's slowly and steadily pushing the yield on money markets like Aave and Compound higher. Because if you can get 3%, 3.5% on your stables on the DAI savings rate, you might as well, borrow stables against your wrap staked ETH on Aave for lower, and then deposit those stables into the DAI savings rate, et cetera. So it's creating more demand for stablecoin borrowing on the money market platforms. And so like you can, there are sort of like treasury adjacent yields on chain in much more Lindy projects. I mean, sure, take a portion
but obviously
of your bag.
We want to beat treasuries. Like the yield on treasuries is kind of crap. Like that's probably barely keeping up with inflation. It's probably not actually keeping up with inflation when we really think about it. But I agree with you, and I think that's all great, and that's great for stablecoin farming. I'm just trying to think about this very specific narrow area, and I've thought about it very similarly to the way that you're thinking about it, which is what's the likelihood that this bridge gets hacked in the next 4 years? And when bridges get hacked, it tends to be really bad. And it's like, it's not always the bridge that you expect. Now we've seen Wormhole, we've seen multi-chain.
Saw Ronin.
Ronin was bad,
Ronin.
yeah.
Yeah, the worst exploits ever have all been on bridges.
So why am I going to go there just for my measly 20% on stables? Like, why am I going to take that 4 year risk when I can go, do something with concentrated liquidity and get very similar or better yields?
I think the key point
not have that.
Yeah, the key point I was trying to make is that any wrapped assets that you have, you're assuming that same risk. Because if those bridges get drained, any assets that are wrapped, they lose all their backing.
Well, non-native. Something can be wrapped and not be bridged, right? Like WETH on mainnet is wrapped in the WETH, whatever you want to call it, smart contracts. So like it doesn't rely on a relayer, or But yes, generally speaking, a non-native asset, you got to be aware of the bridge risk and the like. What is the mechanism that by which that asset is secured on the destination chain, on the source chain, and the relayer mechanism? Like how secure that is, and what your assumptions are. Like that the multi-sig participants on the relayer are honest, or if there's an anti-fragile system that involves maybe like optimistic challenge periods, etc. So I'm not saying L2s are perfect, but I'm saying that in the landscape that we're on, if you have, if you're making positions that are less than 25, 50K a pop, like, so you're not going to be on mainnet, and you're going to be participating in like concentrated liquidity or collateralizing your liquid staked ETH or like doing all these things on chain that are really awesome and can get you like a lot of yield and help you, implement the strategies you want on chain to manage your crypto portfolio, then like I think you can do that on places like Arbitrum. And you can do that on places like Optimism and Base. And I still think that the ZK solutions have a long way to go in terms of their building out their ecosystem. So unless you're airdrop farming, I wouldn't say, bridge huge bags over there. But like these super long tail alt L1 chains that have very kind of shoddily built bridges, maybe if you have some super alpha on a token launch or some degen thing, like go over there, do your thing and get out. But like parking a double-digit percentage of your portfolio on some alt L1 with assets secured by a bridge like, multi-chain with like a multi-sig relayer and like no sort of anti-fragility besides the team operating it, right? That's not the move, I think, at this stage of the market cycle.
Well, I think the scariest part is that we found out after the fact that only the CEO has the correct server administrative privileges to actually fix anything. And of course, nobody knows where that person is. Part of the pseudonymous nature of DeFi. I think to kind of, pile on top of that, what we've learned from Harmony, we've learned from Moonbeam. If there's one major bridge serving a blockchain like that, when you break that bridge, it just cripples everybody on the island, right? You certainly don't want to be in that situation. Ultimately, this is, a PSA for people on places like Metis, on Kava, on even Clayton, or some of these other fringe L1s that are out there, L2s. Be very, very careful how much of your bags you put over there. We talk about allocations all the time. Definitely part of that 20% in the 40-40-20. Just make sure that you don't put a ton of your bags over there because of situations like this, and you get funds unbacked and stranded. And in the case of people on Harmony and not Harmony, in the case of like Phantom.
Well, yeah, Harmony too. Harmony as well, right?
And they actually decided to not do anything about it because they wanted to, maintain the health of the protocol and, just give the middle finger to the community.
They could never do anything about it. There was nothing. All the money got stolen, right?
Well, what was left in the treasury, they refused to put towards making people whole. So,
but it was in like Harmony tokens, right?
No, it was I think it was in BTC. Actual BTC. Yeah, I mean, because in either case,
anyway,
it never seems like a good sign when like somebody's like insurance policy is a bucket of BTC that they then refuse to do anything with. We've never seen that before.
No, we've never seen a whole blockchain buy a backstop of Bitcoin to prevent against an UDPEG in a major black swan event. Never.
Yeah, I don't know about black swan, but yeah, Algo stablecoin blowing up.
Yeah, no.
Is it a black swan? Is it just
targeted attack?
It might be like a white swan that's like painted black.
Sure.
An oil slicked swan, if you will.
It's more like a swan. It's like a snake in a swan costume that's just been slithering around your garden for too long. I don't know. These analogies are quite the reach. I see a couple comments just real quick asking if it's like possible with things like layer 0 and stuff. And, basically to my knowledge, there's not a single chain that's like propped up entirely by layer 0. So I think if you're LPing on a bridge like Stargate, like you're kind of, you like it's the LPs there that are taking the risk, but it's not necessarily the asset holders on Arbitrum, because from what I understand, the actual official Arbitrum bridge holds the vast majority of the assets that are on Arbitrum, and so that's the bridge that would have to be attacked, to my knowledge, right? There's any like bridge super nerds out there that might correct me, but to my knowledge, if you wanted to, like, if you're looking at your risk of holding USDC, which there is a native USDC on Arbitrum now, so you can totally avoid that risk, right? The bridge risk, or ETH or any tokens that are bridged over to Arbitrum from another blockchain. It's predominantly like die or whatever. It's predominantly that main bridge, which has an optimistic assurance of an optimistic challenge period, basically. So if it's attacked, that attack could be stopped before they are actually able to steal the assets on mainnet.
And Gabe, you've actually looked into this, right? On how deep those layer 0 pools actually are.
It was quite a while ago. I would have to do some
but
more
that was
digging,
also in its infancy, right? But still, I mean, you've got Sushi Swap on top of it now. You have Radiant on top of it. You have Pancake Swap on top of it.
Stargate. The actual layer 0 technology, I think it's over 6 billion that's secured using it.
Yeah, and there's a ton on there.
They have a lot of audits happening all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They spend a lot of money trying to make sure everything's secure.
Yeah, and layer 0 is more than just cross-chain bridging. Like, it's just overall a cross-chain messaging protocol that then obviously if you have cross-chain messaging, you can build a bridge on top of that. But yeah, like as far as like what are the chains that layer 0 is hooked up to? Like Arbitrum, Avalanche, Optimism, Mainnet, obviously. Like it's not a lot of like random.
Well, now that Sushi's on board, at least all their 13 majors. So,
oh damn,
no,
but
it's
like
a
you
lot.
said, it's just a messaging service.
Right.
Yeah,
but yeah,
speaking of,
go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. Speaking of algo stables, anyone looked at Frax recently?
No, what?
No, I don't know anything. I was just looking at the.
Well, they're fully collateralized now, right? Like I thought they did that a couple months ago. They got it up to 100% collateralization ratio.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully there's almost $1 billion in TVL.
Oh yeah, dude, I thought you were gonna be like Frax is depacking. I'm like, oh no.
I hope not, considering all they've just talked about with S-Frax ETH and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, dude, I love Frax. I would like some more clarity around SFRX ETH.
Mm-hmm.
Just simply because it seems to me like a bit of a black box now. And I mean, I trust the team, but I don't trust anybody with actually my ETH. So like I can sort of like trust them to be good actors in the space without holding SFRX ETH. And like as of now, I don't. I want to, right? Because they own so much curve governance that they are juicing the yields on their liquidity pools, and their yield on SFRX ETH is like some of the best liquid stake token yield there is. But I just can't justify putting a large chunk of my ETH into this like liquid staking pool that is run by like one team and is like a fairly centralized validator network from what I can tell. That might change, but yeah.
Trust but verify. So if you can't verify, that's a problem.
I don't think they're being deceptive. Like I think they're like fairly open. Like, hey, we run the node operators, but it's just not my desired model. I prefer something like our Rocket Pool ETH or even Lido ETH. Considering like they do have a wide, if you consider like 30 different node operators, like a diverse node operator network, 30 is not as high as I'd like for the amount of ETH they have staked, but like it is not just one team,
Yeah. So to recap on where we were with that point, obviously this huge multi-chain, issue. We certainly want to make sure that if you have funds on Phantom, it's time to cut and run, or at least if you want to wait, you'll be waiting a long time. Like for example, I have Beats and I have Boo, which is Beethoven X and Spooky Swap tokens locked in a vault for a very long time. I'm just saying goodbye to them.
You held that. You held Boo and Beats to the bitter end. Just
I did.
That awesome.
How chat is that, right?
Dude.
Yeah.
Dude.
Oh boy.
At least I didn't get a Magic Cat. If I got a Magic Cat, I would be pissed right now. But essentially,
I made profit on Magic Cat.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
I made profit on Boo. I did great farming Boo.
I did great farming. Well, that's why I kept it. I just put in a Reaper farm vault and just like, okay, well, I'll see you in a couple of years. Yeah, we'll see you in a couple of years, and you'll be worth literally $1.50.
I stacked it.
I mean, Beats is up. What's going on? Why would Beats is up?
Well, but they did redeploy on Optimism. Beats, I don't think I ever really owned. I think I farmed and dumped that when Phantom was the place to be in the bull run.
Why is Beats mooning? By the way, why is it mooning?
Is it mooning?
Yeah.
Beats isn't BEETS.
Yes.
Beethoven's
Look it up.
Beats?
Look it up. Put it up. Put it on screen.
No, it's up 30%. Oh, it's probably mooning because it's a native Phantom asset. So
Yes.
people are swapping
They're swapping for
depegged
Beats.
USDC into Beats.
Because-
yeah,
Oh man.
because Beats is the largest DEX now on Beethoven X is one of the largest DEXs now on Phantom. Yes, time to sell.
yes, it is. I mean, hey,
Hey,
can I interest you in some depeg Phantom Wrap USDC for your Beats?
for your Beats? And these are F Beats. They are governance, 30%
Oh, even
protocol
better.
getting bribes.
Bribes, burbs,
Oh, goodness.
alt
all right.
L1 burbs. That's what
Beats
you
is
want.
up 100% on the 7 days. And who could have thought?
And then can you bridge that Beats then to Optimism to sell it
Yes.
for real, genuine layer 2?
I don't know, man. Now that
Wait,
multi-chain's
Guess
gone,
what the bridges you
support
got to
those
use
fringe-
for it.
You got to use what? Stargate or layer
No,
zero?
you got to use
multi-chain?
multi-chain.
Oh my gosh.
Because I did this with my
Oh
oath.
my gosh.
Yeah,
That's
it's
terrible.
an ugly catch-22. You're like, oh great, I can move to Optimism. There's only one way to get it there. It's through multi-chain. I know,
That's
the
like
sweet irony.
it's like a little leap of faith just yeeting this random altcoin into this broken bridge.
Oh my
Will it pop out on the other side? Who knows?
Who
Probably not.
knows? Yeah,
Probably
let's
won't.
I mean, Phantom itself is native on Phantom, and you can withdraw that to centralized exchanges, can't you?
Yeah,
That's
the
true.
move. That's what
Probably a better
that's what you.
option.
Yeah, that's what you do. That's what you do.
Yeah, so if you happen to have funds on Phantom, go to Beethoven X and swap it for Beats. I'm just kidding. No, really, you want to try and salvage what you can. That's essentially the move. Salvage.
Well,
what you
yeah, I mean,
can.
not financial advice. We
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen in the future, but if I was given 10,000 Phantom USDC, I would take what I can and
I mean,
swap it.
if we just look here on DeFi Llama at Phantom, I mean, it's the heyday of Phantom is gone, right?
Bullish,
Well, I
bullish
mean, that's
chart.
not news, but yeah.
Yeah, we're in this section, and it's if it could go. Can I even zoom in on this? No.
So is this like a Stegosaurus?
No,
This is a sailfish, a blue marlin gone, just
Damn,
already
it's below
gone.
150 mil on TVL now. That's crazy.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Is it really crazy?
Yeah, it is actually.
I
Considering
mean, actually, it's insane, I guess.
if you think about the mainnet ties that Phantom has always had, I mean, they have a fantastic
Mainnet tied together with
unfront-runnable
string. Tied together
distributed
with
ledger. No, I know, but at the same time, I've always loved the tech. I've never loved the way that they've ran it, but the tech has always been good. So it's a shame. It's a shame that it's come to this, but yeah, if
I
you're
mean,
on Phantom,
we all stand some Byzantine fault tolerance. We all do.
Mhm.
fair.
Yeah, it's just foundations of sand.
Yeah.
And apparently it was built on multi-chains bridge.
Yeah.
Who knew? Well,
I never felt good about it after we had that interview with the
With
guy from
Kong.
Phantom.
Yeah.
Like they as a VC firm came in and basically took over and then had to build the tech that they were promised, that they invested in originally. It's just crazy situation. And I mean, it worked in a bull market, but it's not a bull market anymore.
And they have a modular VM model, so they can, they could bring in a Cosmos VM if they wanted to bridge directly into. So, I mean, like I said,
crazy if we just invited
foundations of
Michael Kang onto this podcast next week.
Michael
I don't
Kong.
think he would join.
I don't think he would join us.
No, but I mean, we could invite him. We could send out an open letter, inviting him on the podcast.
Especially if we watch this one.
We've got a better shot at landing
no,
Andre
I mean-
Cronje at this point than we do Michael Kong.
Invite them both. Invite them both.
Oh, sure. Let's do that.
Let's revisit that at a later date.
Let's revisit that. Speaking of revisiting, let's go ahead and move on. So Arkham Intel is going to be launching next week. So Jangle, if you want to explain what Arkham Intelligence is, they actually have a beta going on right now. it's the first on-chain intelligence exchange. Go ahead.
So here's what I know. I saw some referral codes. I saw a lot of people upset. I saw a lot of people very upset about this. A lot of anons furious. This really stirred up the anons quite a bit. And I also saw an Omega cringe video with whoever posted it, claiming the dude in the video is the founder of this project, and he's like, in New York buying Gucci suits. Like it's a rough look, right? Like it's one of those things. So this is some basically marketplace is what they're building here for connecting on-chain sleuths and feds, basically. No, traders. They say traders, investors, journalists, researchers, protocols, people who want information on chain with people who have the technical ability to get it, organize it, and present it, right? So it's like basically a bounty board for on-chain data. And then it seemed like what people were most upset about was the angle of doxing people. Like they had one tweet about de-anonymization is yada yada yada. It turned into like a copy pasta all over my feed. But yeah, I think something like this is kind of inevitable, right? It'll accelerate privacy tech. You emit tons of data, when you interact with with blockchain. So if you have things that you want private, you should be taking the appropriate precaution and know that you might still fail if you're of significant interest, or people actually want to de-anonymize your on-chain presence, find all your wallets, link them back to you. So yeah,
I think all the data and deals made using this system will be public knowledge after 90 days as well.
Yeah, there's definitely some controversy with this, right? It's kind of like docs to own type deal. But did Mother Arkham, the alpha is you, as we'd like to say.
Snitch to earn.
Snitch to earn. Exactly.
I mean,
Too funny.
These guys, no one knew who these guys were like 3 months ago.
I know.
Their initial publicity came from bad alerts that they generated.
Yeah, the bad signal.
Yeah, and they got a load of followers from that.
What was that again? I think I remember. What
it was one of the they had an alert go out saying that some BTC cold
was moving.
Yeah.
And it caused that gigantic dump.
Yeah, because everybody thought it was like the government was selling
exactly.
seized Bitcoin. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
But that was marketing for them, right? Was that really a mistake? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that the takeaway here is that if you scare people and then you also go and piss off a bunch of Anons with your snitch to earn program, you're gonna get some publicity. And then if you're a marketplace like this, maybe you're gonna be able to turn that publicity into money. So hats off to their marketing department.
I also want to know, how are they going to verify the information that's being sold? What's the verification process here?
That's a great question.
Don't know. I saw one tweet from an Anon saying, hey, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to make bounties for myself, and then I'm going to award those bounties to myself on a different wallet address and then submit all incorrect information. So if people then look me up and try to find my addresses from this marketplace, the addresses that get linked back to me will be all of the fake addresses that I paid myself the bounty to distribute. So it's I'm sure if you're, really motivated, you can mess this system up somehow.
Well, I think anything that's essentially a peer-to-peer exchange is going to need some sort of reputation system.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, we've seen this in peer-to-peer Bitcoin exchanges. We've certainly seen this in some darknet exchanges, if you will. There's usually some sort of community rating system.
Yeah, review systems for your ecstasy dealer. It's a must.
Yeah.
You don't want to be getting
Okay,
bad stuff. I want
yes.
a persistent reputation. I mean,
Sure.
responsible use, guys.
So what if they since it's like the Arkham theme, right? What if they made like little NFTs that were like, you know, like little legally distinct from Batman characters? And then there was like a system of badges that could be given to trusted NFT holders. And this would mean that they could also like have a big like whitelist launch for the NFTs and then an auction system probably over like a period of 90 days. Do you think that might work?
So what's the? I mean, like, listen, I like the idea. Oh, I don't like the idea, but I understand the idea of a decentralized peer-to-peer marketplace for DeFi and on-chain research and data and analysis, right? Some of that likely could include doxing services, right? Like, this is the nature of permissionless peer-to-peer marketplaces is, if you have a permissionless peer-to-peer marketplace for, physical goods, you might have some illegal firearms and drugs on there, right? If you have a permissionless peer-to-peer platform for on-chain information, sure, like I might pay some people to make a really convenient Dune dashboard type situation that shows exactly what I want to see on a protocol that I like. That I can check in on and like have that tool built for me and find the analyst and researcher who could build that tool. That's awesome, right? And you're also probably going to have people who are wanting to provide like doxing services, right? Or insight into information that other people don't want people to easily be able to see and access, like the wallet addresses mapped out in detail of like famous people in the space and stuff like that. So is this going to be the one that catches on? I don't know. This seems like a particularly, kind of like cringe project. I don't, just from what I've seen in the last couple of weeks on Twitter, but it's kind of an area, a sector in the space that I don't think is going to go away and will ultimately accelerate the timeline on the privacy tech being built and adopted.
Well, yeah, I think especially with, the rise of people like Zach XBT and some of these others that have, caused a specific movement and, exposing bad actors, it's kind of all led to stuff like this, I think, overall. We were looking at possibly tracking a token launch for this. Then we found out that they're actually doing it through Binance's Launchpad. So, well, they went that drain. I know.
That's the real indication that they're a cringe project.
Because they're launching on a CEX Launchpad, the token for clout. Yeah.
Yes.
I think you also need like how much you can buy in the pre-sale is determined by how many like affiliate link clicks you get.
Oh
yeah. Oh, yeah. There's also the thing where if you shared your affiliate link, people were able to derive your email address from it, which is like, who cares? But if you're an anon and you take it seriously and you actually don't want anybody knowing your identity and you're just like typing your doxed email address into things, like, and you're doomed. Like, this is not going to be the thing that destroys your OPSEC. Like, you were doomed.
Not going to make it, sir.
But yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
All right.
What are you gonna do?
We'll go ahead and move on. We have a couple more things to talk about today. The other one that's actually quite interesting, and only because when we were at East Denver, I mean, they were everywhere, and they're probably, I don't even know, probably the billboards are coming down, but Algorand is going to shut down by the end of the year. This is based on just information. I mean, they were labeled a security by the SEC, which I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but they've decided that, since AlgoFi owns more than 55% of the TVL of the entire chain, they're shutting that down. So that, it's essentially turning into a withdraw only protocol. Yeah, this is the end of Algorand for sure. So I personally have never really used it. I've bridged over there once, but there's just more curious about the process. But more Altel ones are gonna come and go before we get to Valhalla or whatever we're going to with regards to. There's going to be winners and losers. Unfortunately, Algorand had a lot of great tech that a lot of people were really excited about, but and they did a lot of marketing over the last 12 to 18 months. But looks like this is the end for them.
Yeah, damn you, Gensler, for shilling me this security.
Right?
I've have I ever owned any Algorand? I feel like I do have some random, probably worthless amount of Algorand at this point staked on some hot Exodus wallet that's been staked there for probably like 3 years.
You just bought some to come back to it in 5 years.
I think I bought like $100 worth of Algorand in like at some point in 2021, and just to like, I don't know, see the
10
stake.
cents, sir.
Yeah, it's probably worth nothing, huh?
That was me and my 1K buy of Gala, probably about 2 years ago, and yeah.
I look back sometimes at like the bull market, and I think I had a lot of good rotations. I think there were obviously a lot of Altel ones popping off and a lot of yield farming on a lot of like random chains. But sometimes I look back at things that I bought like and have not like cut my losses on just because it's inconvenient. Like I think I have like I still have some Atom like staked somewhere. I think on like the Osmosis chain. I've got some Algorand, I think, on like a random hot wallet. I've probably just got like dust of these absolute shit coins. Maybe one of them will pop off in the next bull market, and I'll find.
Well, if you don't want, you can send the Atom to me. I'll take that.
Yeah, it's probably not worth it much at this point.
I'll take it. I'll take your dust, quote unquote. Yeah. So thanks for the fish, Algorand. We'll see it. We'll see you in the next life.
Yeah. So is this an issue with the network, or is it just like the biggest and kind of like only semi-relevant DeFi on there is just like packing it up and going home? Is
pretty much. Yeah, they had a pretty burgeoning NFT scene as well. And AlgoFi just has so much TVL that they've decided to pack it up, and it's that when they do that, that's it. So unless they have a quote unquote Terra Rebel / Hexagon thing going on Algo, which they won't, everyone's going to be moving. So my guess is they're going to be moving to Polygon
or Optimism. It seems like I think was it Liquid Driver also announced.
Yes. Liquid Driver. That I didn't put that in the agenda. Liquid Driver is migrating to Optimism, which is big news actually.
And like Beats did.
Yeah, they're doing it OFT style. They're doing it, literally omni-chain fungible tokens. So they're going to provide a way to migrate your assets over there. So
that's pretty badass.
I think so. That's bullish for OP for sure. Obviously with Optimism, you also have BNB doing their testnet chain for using Optimism stack. So yeah, big things on the rise with all of these super stacks, whether it be Bedrock from OP, whether it be Arbitrum 1, not one, Orbit, Snow from Avalanche, which Metal is built off. There's a couple out there, and I think there's a lot of infrastructure wise. There's a lot of good tech that's going to be used moving forward that probably won't be have the same pitfalls as some of these others have had. So,
wasn't there another project that announced an app chain with the OP stack this week? I'm looking for it in C4 right now because I think CJ
I'd have to look.
Put it in there.
I'd have to look. I don't remember exactly, but I think I might have heard something. But
I think that the I'm kind of bullish on the OP stack. I'm kind of bullish on app chains with OP stack.
I'm kind of bullish on some of the L3s building on top of the L2s, building on the OP stack. We'll have to talk about that on a future episode, because obviously with LSDs and LST5, which we will do a super show on sometime soon, there's a lot of movement with these L3s, quote unquote, that are building up on top of these roll-up L2s, trying to play off of that. And what they're doing is they're actually batching transactions using the roll-ups. So really interesting tech, but we'll cover it on a on a future episode. But we'll go ahead and move on, guys, to something that really just kind of piqued my interest when I came across it yesterday, and that is Axelar and Microsoft are now teaming up, seemingly, as they now have an adoption of blockchain technologies. Axelar is the first cross-chain protocol ever to be allowed on the Azure marketplace. Azure being Microsoft's excellent cloud computing platform. So what this is going to do is going to open up Axelar JS, which is a JavaScript platform, which has been honestly pivotal for a lot of really good routers of the future, like cross-chain swaps, like Squid router. If you've used them, that they're great. You can go literally anywhere with those coming soon. But they're going to be taking Axelar's technology and giving Web 2 and potentially Web 3 developers the ability to use AI on blockchain-based data. They're going to be checking that out together. So do we see something with crypto GPT sometime soon? What do you think?
Uh-oh.
I don't know, man. I think that like using LLMs to interact with blockchain data is cool, but it's likely early. It is likely early and not. So I don't think there's a usable product in the next like 6 months that makes it like super cool and usable.
The idea is really cool though.
Yeah, I love the idea because they're really doing great things. Obviously Layer 0 is great, but Axelar's tech is honestly just as good, and it's actually making a lot of moves from a liquidity standpoint. Being able to see Atom assets on Arbitrum that you can farm at places like Camelot, but just the fact that you can do it is pretty awesome. And I've used the Squid router. I think it's really good as a cross-chain swapping option. We're going to see more interoperability between different ecosystems, not just all EVM. It's going to be IBC and all of these other types of blockchains that'll come up that could potentially all just be connected, and that would be fantastic. So I'm really excited to see where we move from there. And how this could potentially, with regards to Axelar's tech, just give, because it's JavaScript based. So from a tech standpoint, for anyone in my tech communities out there, this is huge because Cosmos has always been built on WebAssembly, but now that they have a JS library, you have Cosm JS. It makes it a lot easier to onboard more developers from Web 2 into the space, which is honestly, we need more builders. And we've been building a lot, but having even more builders come in with very little friction to build tools. And this is open to all of Microsoft's customers now. So we're going to see some interesting stuff, I think, in the next 6 to 18 months, specifically from this partnership. So moving on to the next piece.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
What exactly at a high level, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
5, what does Axelar do? Are they similar to Layer 0? I know there's some sort of interoperability tech.
Yeah, it's just interoperability tech.
Use?
Well, they have their own pegged USDC stablecoin called Axel USDC that you can find on various specifically for EVM. If you're wanting to go over to a Cosmos IBC, you need to use Axelar wrapped USDC to get there, and using their satellite bridge, or you can use Squid router that also uses Axelar tech to get there. So yeah, they're a protocol with messaging like Layer 0 that has liquidity built on top.
So yeah, here's the bull case, I think, for the Cosmos ecosystem. It seems like and even sort of, I remember there's a headline a while ago about Amazon enabling like Avalanche subnets. I think that there is a desire from larger institutions to control their execution environments and to control any chains that they operate on. So like it kind of makes sense, Microsoft from like a cloud provider perspective, being somewhat friendly to sort of IBC and Cosmos interoperability tech and sort of building out that infrastructure. I just, obviously have different opinions on long term what the sustainable solution is, and obviously the fact that ETH has solved, in my opinion, the monetary problem, right? The monetary premium issue that enables like long term a sustainable security model, and ETH is money being exported to all of the L2s. I think is going to make that sort of tech stack and solution pretty sticky. But yeah, there does seem like there's this. Why would someone like Microsoft not lean into the OP stack and like, and work with somebody like Coinbase if they want to integrate, technology or create the ability to spin up and support like app chains on the OP stack in their cloud infrastructure. Instead going the Cosmos sort of lane. Interesting thing to keep tabs on.
I think the reason why is, they want to really defer to other leaders in the space. Leaders like WorldCoin. That's a segue, by the way.
Yeah, that was beautiful, honestly.
Was that beautiful? Thank you. I appreciate that. So, moving on to this, I'm not going to lie. I am terrified. And, we learned from our recent Q&A with, our friend Kayla from Truffle Ventures that she got scanned for WorldCoin ID. So, ultimately, Spain and Portugal are the hotbed for WorldCoin right now. If you're not familiar with WorldCoin, it is a project from co-founded by Sam Altman, who is he's the co-founder of OpenAI, which was bought by Microsoft, who runs ChatGPT.
Not fully bought, but
but major, So essentially, they have this new technology called the Orb, and basically the Orb actually scans your eye and gives you a digital ID to proof of personhood. Basically, it's like a POAP, but just with your iris. And ultimately, in a world with rising pilots of CBDCs, which are central bank digital currencies, I am scared out of my mind for something like this. But interesting, misdirectional take here. They're looking to possibly, with WorldCoin, using your digital ID, a self-sovereign identity, if you will, to help distribute universal basic income to as many people. They want everyone in the world, but they've only got like 2 million currently. But still, they're signing up, 20,000.
So wait, are they going to airdrop me money if I dox my eyeball?
Something like that. That's what I mean. UBI has been a political platform that a lot of, progressives, we'll call it, have run on for years.
To be clear, these guys, they aren't a central bank, right?
Yeah, not saying that they are.
They print money, but they can scan eyeballs.
They can certainly scan eyeballs.
They're doing it. So open wide.
Take that, Apple Vision Pro.
Cool. Keep on scanning those eyeballs, fellas.
Could you imagine if the Apple Vision Pro includes tech from WorldCoin for privacy and digital identity?
I'd rather not. I don't know.
You gonna get a Vision Pro, Jangle?
Not if they're scanning his eyeballs.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm sure that there's enough pictures of me that exist. Like if I open wide my webcam, I'm sure there'll eventually be some sort of technology that can get my unique iris even from this sort of stream. Maybe not. I have no idea, to be honest. I'm not particularly concerned about giving away that data. I just, unless they're promising me an airdrop, I'm just probably not going to do that. So
scan an eye, win a house.
Yeah, and like if you're creating this WorldCoin, and you're distributing it to everybody on Earth. Like, is it going to be that big of an airdrop? Like, what's the tokenomics, right? Like,
How big of an airdrop would you need to be promised for a blood sample, Jangle?
I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know what the value of having a sample of my blood is. I'm sure to the right person, they'd be fairly price insensitive at the right time. But I don't feel like, that would be a situation I find myself in very often.
I mean, in a world full of deepfakes, in a world full of identity theft, bad actors, having this is the primary way, because there's also the digital wallet for crypto built in, to the platform natively. Yeah, I mean, I'm torn, but I'm still scared as hell.
So, like, why not fingerprints for biometrics?
That's a great question. Why not?
I don't know. I'm not a biometrics expert. I'm assuming there's a reason. Maybe it's harder to scan in a touchless way. That could be a big part of it.
NBA, not biometric advice.
More easily cut off a finger, probably, if you needed to.
It has to be fast though, because once you remove the heat, the body temperature heat, it starts to cool.
I don't know, man. I've watched some sci-fi series where actually, like, removing an eyeball is a for an authentication device like this is a key part of the plot. So,
Minority Report.
I was thinking about the peripheral, but sure.
Oh,
if you had to keep the finger warm, couldn't you just like put it in between your palms, just like friction, like you're starting a fire? No, that wouldn't do the trick? Can you microwave it?
Advice.
Okay, never mind.
All right. Well, guys, that's all we got for you today.
Oh man, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to keep talking about it, we can.
About biometrics and how to keep fingers in scannable states after they've
Okay, well, let me pose this question to you. So the biggest issue, obviously, with getting the next billion people into DeFi is how do you do it for normal people for self-custody that they will actually trust? Because if they can't trust themselves to understand seed phrase management and wallet separation and whatnot, if they had something like this that would identify them completely, get everything set up right away, and they can easily link everything in the world digitally, from a currency standpoint to it, which is still also scary because of CBDCs. Is this a move?
Yeah, I think that long term for making permissionless financial infrastructure available to a lot of people who don't understand a lot about self-custody or don't want to self-custody or don't have the technical ability to self-custody their own assets and manage their own private keys. The solution for that is, unfortunately, trusted, regulated custodians. So those I mean, that's it, right? Like, you can't keep your own private keys. You can't trust yourself with your own private keys. Like, you keep your crypto with a custodian, right?
But the argument here is that you don't need a custodian if there's just like a better way to store your passphrase. If your passphrase is your eyeball, I guess. Well, I guess that's not exactly how it works, but something like that.
Well, then you're walking around with your private key on your face. No. I mean, it can be one form of verification, but it can't be the same as a private key. Like, your biometrics cannot be your end all be all singular private key. Like, you can because then, like, if you've got a lot of money, right, then people know your private keys right there sitting on your face. You're going to get your eyeball jacked.
Yeah, I mean, we go back to like the security theory of something something you have, and something you are. This is a novel solution for the something you are, right? You are your eyeball, I guess.
What about eyeball and password?
Yeah, eyeball, password, and then like a physical security key.
Yeah, but then you run into like the same issue where now you're trusting the user to manage this private key, right? It's it's a password or a seed phrase. Either way, that hashes into some sort of private key. And listen, I am here for private key management. Like, if anybody wants to know private key management,
What if we just use social recovery after that? We just use social recovery.
Management of a password is different than management of a seed phrase. You can memorize a password. You can't memorize an entire seed phrase.
You can memorize
a seed phrase.
I guess you could, but most people don't.
Oh, look at that face from Jangle. That is somebody clipped that right. I'm clipping that right now.
Oh no, Alabama internet strikes again, guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Saved.
Yeah, you are.
Got it.
Okay.
That's amazing. It was like half shock, half constipated. It's like, it's like, it's different than the Arbitrum face. The Arbitrum token face was still my favorite.
Oh boy.
So.
Yeah. People, it's tough managing private keys. People lose them. People give them away. So
social recovery, it'll be fine.
There should be options. There's going to be a lot of options. You can abstract away the complexity, yada, yada, yada. Biometrics can be part of the solution. Regulation of trusted custodians can be part of the solution. Obviously, the cypherpunks out there should always have the option to hold their own private keys, and that is
And he's gone.
So we should probably start like a brokerage for digital sovereign identity. I think we could call it.
Sounds like a security or something. I don't know.
No. I mean, we're literally just helping people who can't manage their sovereign identity through their biometrics. We would just broker that for them.
I've got an idea on how we could do this, but I really want Jangle to be back. Okay, I think he's back. So what about this, Jangle? I've had some time to think. I think I might have the solution. What if you have a hardware wallet, right?
Okay.
And your private key is encrypted, and it's set, and 3 pieces of it are sent to 3 separate custodians. Isn't that kind of splitting the baby on the self custody and the trusted custodian piece?
Then they could collude. They know who each other are. They could be subpoenaed, right? There's a lot of issues, but
it depends on where Ledger has decided to put these 3 validators that you have
wait,
sent.
Ledger? Wait, why are you talking about Ledger? This is
because you're explaining exactly how CoinCover works from Ledger Recover.
Oh my gosh! What if we just thought about it as a separate idea, separate?
No, there's no perfect solution unless you assume that the individual knows what they're doing and is competent, right? If the individual is educated on how to manage their private key and is competent, then that's the best solution, right? But you can't assume that that's going to scale because people don't want to have that much responsibility. At least not everybody. A lot of people do. A lot of people love sovereignty and individualism and self-responsibility. And a lot of people are just out here in the world getting bodied. And so those people need solutions that are idiot-proof, and those solutions need to have the regulatory framework to be able to exist. So that's where we're going. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then a lot of gray area in between.
So I think that's fair. I think
we're going to see a bunch of Game Boys with iris stickers duct taped on them, right?
I think maybe you're right. Maybe responsibility just isn't for everybody.
At least not in every domain, right? Like, you can be like a great, I don't know, horseback rider and just not gonna manage your private keys ever. You could be a great whatever and not be cut out to manage your private keys. That's fine.
I know, like, a lot of people have problems losing things. Like, a lot of people leave the house and they forget their keys. For whatever reason, I've never had this issue. I always have my keys.
Got your keys on you right now?
You always have your eyeball?
I can see them. They're within sight.
Well, all I'm saying is that there's going to be a lot of people to where this sort of model of trusted third parties and financial institutions, et cetera, is not going to work for them because that's the solution that DeFi and crypto have kind of set out to solve from the beginning. So in the US, in a lot of nations, a lot of developed European nations, whatever, nations with strong, relatively strong currencies and robust financial services, it's less obvious why self-custody is important. But of course, people in Turkey or Venezuela or Argentina would much rather take the time to put in the work to understand how to hold US dollar stable coins with a private key that they control versus somebody in the US who has just been like working a 9-to-5 job and contributing to their 401k and getting a match, and that's what they know about wealth preservation and growth, right? You're buying a residence and contributing to your 401k is like the way that 90% or something of millionaires in the US are made, right? So it's like for those types of people who that's the system they're used to operating in, as long as the U.S. stays relatively free, which I guess is an assumption, right? They don't need to learn the self-custody at some point in the future, right? Like if you want to front run the opportunity, yes, you need to learn how this technology works and be allocated to it before people can just allocate to it by default in their 401ks. Like at that point, there will be structural inflows and the market cap will be much higher and there won't be room for multiples as much. But yeah, it's how early do you want to be? How much work do you want to put in? How much return do you want to make? It's not like the same path isn't for everybody, basically.
Gabe, you haven't said a whole lot on this. I just want to know your closing thoughts, and we'll go home.
Yeah, I agree with Jangle. I don't think there is a perfect solution here. It is something that needs to be resolved in order to get all these people on board and into crypto. We don't have a solution yet. A lot of people are working a lot of different angles to try and figure out a good solution, but I don't think we're there yet.
I agree. Yeah, whether it be an iris scan, a fingerprint, a watch, something that find some type of algorithm there. I think we'll find a way to get the everyday civilian, as we call them, to come through and figure out what we need to make this to make it easy for everyone in our new digital future to be able to conduct business and specifically just live a good digital life, I guess is the word. Any parting thoughts, Jangle?
Yeah. Good call, everybody. Excited to talk to you next week. If anybody wants white glove treatment on how to enter and allocate into the crypto space, reach out to us on Twitter or in the comment section of this video. We help investors learn about DeFi and allocate their crypto to high yielding, risk adjusted yield farms. So let us know if you need some help, and we'll be happy to connect. And thanks for joining the call, everybody. Talk to you soon.
See you guys in a little bit. 07.
Cheers.
See you next week.